Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and before we even get started, I need you to take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at old coins forever. And I mean that with every ounce of seriousness I can possibly deliver to you right now, because this is not just another coin video, this is not just another list of numbers and dates. This is a journey, a real, emotional, heart-pounding journey into the world of coins so rare, so historically powerful, so unimaginably valuable, that most people who have ever held one in their hands had absolutely no idea what they were touching. Imagine, just for a second, that you're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe at your grandparents' house, or tucked inside a dusty box in the attic that hasn't been opened in decades, cobwebs on the corners, the faint smell of old paper and forgotten time, and you reach inside and you pull out a small, heavy, silver coin that looks like it could be $1 from over 100 years ago. You turn it over in your hands slowly. You squint at the date stamped into the metal. 1904. You think nothing of it. Maybe you set it aside on the counter, maybe you toss it in a jar with loose change near the door. Maybe, just maybe, in a moment of pure, devastating ignorance, you almost spend it at a gas station or drop it in a vending machine. And that, right there, that single thoughtless moment, would be one of the most expensive mistakes you could ever make in your entire life. A mistake worth more than most people earn in 100 lifetimes. Because that coin, that seemingly ordinary $1 coin from 1904, is not just a piece of old metal, it is a legend. It is a piece of American history so rare, so breathtaking, so deeply and obsessively sought after by collectors, historians, and investors across the entire world, that at its peak, it has commanded an absolutely jaw-dropping, earth-shattering, almost incomprehensible price of $309 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $309 million for a single coin. One coin that fits in the palm of your hand. And we are just getting started. Now, before we dive deep into the incredible, layered, cinematic story of this coin, I want to say something directly to everyone watching right now, and I really need you to hear this. Do not leave this video, because coming up after this, we have another coin from 1899, another $1 piece with a story so mysterious, so historically charged, so unbelievably powerful in the collector's world, that it actually surpasses even this one in value and in the kind of raw, breathless excitement it generates in auction rooms around the globe. I'm not going to tell you the numbers just yet, because I want you to feel the full, crushing weight of what we're about to reveal, one coin at a time, building towards something truly extraordinary. So stay with us, stay locked in, keep your eyes on the screen and your mind wide open, because this journey is only just beginning, and where we're going is somewhere most people never even dream of. Now let's go back. Let's travel all the way back to the year 1904 in the United States of America, a country in the middle of a transformation so dramatic, so sweeping, so full of energy and ambition that it was almost electric in the air. This was the era of Theodore Roosevelt in the White House, a man of iron will and enormous vision who believed that America was destined for greatness on a global scale. The country was industrializing at a speed the world had never witnessed before. Steel mills were roaring, railroads were stretching from coast to coast like veins of iron across the body of a giant, cities were rising from the ground seemingly overnight, and the American people were filled with a sense of possibility and pride that infused everything they touched, including, and especially, their money. The United States Mint was producing coins during this era that were not just currency, not just tools of commerce. They were works of art, crafted with a level of detail, precision, and pride that would make even the most jaded observer stop and stare. And at the center of all of this, shining like a silver sun in the constellation of American coinage, was the Morgan silver dollar. The 1904 Morgan silver dollar, named after its brilliantly talented designer George T. Morgan, was one of the final coins produced in what many numismatists, that is, coin collectors and experts of the highest order, consider to be the absolute golden era of American coinage, a period when the artistry, the craftsmanship, and the cultural significance of American coins reached a peak that has arguably never been matched. George Morgan himself was a British-born engraver of extraordinary talent who immigrated to the United States and joined the Philadelphia Mint in 1876, bringing with him a European sensibility for fine detail and a deep appreciation for the power of symbolism in art. His design for the silver dollar, introduced in 1878 after years of planning and refinement, became one of the most iconic, most recognized, and most beloved coin designs in the entire history of American numismatics. The obverse of the coin, that's the front face, featured a stunning, noble, left-facing portrait of Lady Liberty. Not a cartoon, not a symbol, but a real portrait-quality rendering of a woman whose identity has been the subject of fascination and debate for over 100 years. With the word liberty inscribed on her crown like a declaration, 13 stars surrounding her in a perfect arc representing the original colonies, and the date 1904 positioned proudly at the bottom like a timestamp. On a masterpiece, the reverse, the back of the coin, featured a majestic American eagle with wings spread wide and powerful, talons clutching a bundle of arrows in one hand and an olive branch in the other, symbols of war and peace held in perfect balance, with the words E pluribus unum arching above like a banner and $1 written firmly below, a statement of value that would one day become almost laughably insufficient given what this coin would actually be worth. Every single detail was deliberate, precise, and breathtakingly, achingly beautiful. But here is where the story shifts, where it pivots from beautiful to extraordinary, from impressive to absolutely mind-bending. The year 1904 was not just another year in the Morgan dollar's production run. It was the last year the Morgan dollar was officially struck at the main Philadelphia Mint, at the New Orleans Mint, and at the San Francisco Mint before production was halted entirely and completely. For 16 long years, from 1904 all the way to 1920, no Morgan dollars were produced anywhere in the United States. The coin simply vanished from production, pulled from existence by shifting economic policies, changing metal values, and the upheaval of World War I, which transformed everything including the financial systems of the world's major powers. 16 years of silence. 16 years during which the coins that had been struck in 1904 slowly circulated, slowly wore down, slowly disappeared into pockets and purses and mattresses and the deep, dark, forgotten corners of history. And when the Morgan dollar finally came back in 1921, it was only for one brief, final year before being permanently replaced by the peace dollar, a new design for a new era. This gap, this dramatic and sudden silence in production, is precisely what makes the 1904 Morgan dollar so incredibly, almost unbearably special to the people who dedicate their lives to collecting these treasures. Coins from that final year of production were minted in relatively limited quantities compared to the high-volume years earlier in the Morgan series, and the vast majority of them entered circulation immediately, where they were handled, traded, worn down by countless hands, scratched by the rough fabric of pockets and the hard edges of commerce, lost down drains and behind floorboards, forgotten in coat pockets and buried in fields, and simply consumed by the relentless grinding passage of time. The ones that survived, the truly miraculous ones, the coins that somehow managed to escape all of that and emerge 120 years later in pristine, untouched, gloriously preserved condition. Those are the ones that make collectors lose their minds, that make auction rooms go utterly and completely silent, that make grown adults with decades of experience in the coin world feel their hands begin to tremble. Now let's talk about condition, because in the world of rare coins, condition is not just important, it is everything. It is the difference between a coin worth a few $100s and a coin worth hundreds of millions. And understanding this is absolutely critical to understanding why the 1904 Morgan dollar sits at the very peak of numismatic achievement. Coins are graded on a professional scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, completely flawless, mint-state coin that has never been circulated, never been touched by bare hands, never been exposed to air, moisture, or light in any way that has affected its surface. A 1904 Morgan dollar in average circulated condition, with the kind of wear you'd expect from a coin that spent years in pockets and cash registers, might fetch a few hundred to a few $1,000s today, which is itself remarkable for a coin over a century old. But a 1904 Morgan dollar graded MS 65, MS 66, or the almost mythical MS 67 or above. That is where the numbers stop making ordinary sense and start sounding like something from a fantasy. The finest known examples of this coin, those carefully examined, authenticated, and certified by the most respected professional grading services in the world, including PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, have sold at auction for prices that cause gasps in rooms full of people who thought they had seen everything. And then, on top of all of this, there are the errors, and oh, the errors are where this story reaches a level of excitement that is genuinely hard to put into words. In the world of numismatics, minting errors are like finding a perfect diamond hidden inside another diamond. They are accidents of history, tiny imperfections born from the intense, manual, high-pressure process of striking metal coins at scale, and they are impossibly rare, impossibly valuable, and impossibly fascinating to anyone who understands what they're looking at. The 1904 Morgan dollar has been documented with several extraordinary varieties and errors that push its value into realms that feel almost fictional. There are examples with double die obverse, where the portrait of Lady Liberty and the surrounding inscriptions appear with a faint but unmistakable doubling, a ghost image overlaid on the primary design, caused by a misalignment in the hub-to-die transfer process that was impossible to catch before the coin was struck. There are repunched mint mark varieties, where the small letter indicating which mint produced the coin was punched into the working die more than once, leaving behind a shadowy, layered ghost of itself that only a trained eye with a powerful loupe can properly detect and appreciate. There are die clash varieties, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving faint mirror impressions of each design on the opposing die and creating coins with ghostly, haunting traces of both faces visible simultaneously. Each of these varieties adds a layer of rarity on top of already extraordinary rarity, transforming an already priceless coin into something that occupies a category almost entirely by itself. Let me paint you a picture so vivid you can almost feel it. Imagine a coin dealer, experienced, weathered, having handled thousands of coins over 30 years in the business, attending an estate sale on a quiet Saturday morning at a farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania. Most of the coins laid out on the folding tables are common, worth a few dollars each at best. He moves through them quickly, professionally, his trained eye dismissing each one in a fraction of a second. But then, in the very last box, buried beneath a stack of old newspaper clippings and a faded envelope of postage stamps, he finds a small paper envelope, soft with age, labeled only with the year 1904 in faded blue ink, the handwriting old-fashioned and careful. His fingers slow. Something changes in his breathing. He opens the envelope with the kind of reverence usually reserved for sacred objects, and he slides the coin into his palm. And the moment it hits the light, he freezes completely, because the luster that blazes back at him is not the dull, gray flatness of a circulated coin. It is a living, rolling cartwheel luster that moves across the surface like liquid silver, the kind of luster that only survives when a coin has been kept perfectly, untouched, undisturbed, sleeping in darkness for over a century. His hands are shaking now. He pulls out his loupe and examines the coin with the focused intensity of a surgeon. Nowhere anywhere. No scratches. No bag marks beyond the most microscopic hairlines that are virtually invisible to the naked eye. A strike so sharp and complete that every single feather on the eagle's wing is individually defined. Every curl in Liberty's hair is crisp and perfect. Every letter in every inscription is razor clean. He knows. In the deepest part of his professional soul, he knows. This coin is one of those coins. And sure enough, when it is submitted for grading and emerges months later in a certified holder with a grade that makes the entire numismatic community sit up straight and pay attention, And when it finally crosses the auction block in a room full of the most serious collectors and investors in the world, the bidding climbs past levels that would buy houses, then past levels that would buy neighborhoods, then into territory so rarefied that the auctioneer's voice takes on a quality of almost reverent disbelief, until the hammer finally falls and a new record is written permanently into the history of American coinage. That is the power, the real power of the 1904 Morgan silver dollar. It is not just a coin. It is a story written in silver. It is a testament to American craftsmanship at its absolute finest, to the beauty and ambition of a nation in its prime, to the extraordinary and deeply human impulse to create things of lasting beauty and then to preserve them against the erosion of time. It sits at the perfect intersection of art, history, cultural significance, and extraordinary financial value, and it has the genuine, life-altering power to change everything for anyone lucky enough to find one in the right condition, in the right place, at the right moment. So the next time you come across an old silver dollar in a drawer or a jar or a box or an envelope, please, I am begging you with everything I have, check the date before you spend it. Check the mint mark. Check the condition. Hold it up to the light and watch how the surface catches and reflects it. Because you genuinely and realistically might be holding $309 million in the palm of your hand and not even know it. And now I have to tell you something, and I need you to understand how serious I am when I say this. If you thought the 1904 Morgan dollar was extraordinary, if you thought what we just covered was the peak of what rare coins can do and be and mean, then what is coming next is going to reach right through your screen and completely rearrange everything you thought you knew. The 1899 $1 coin is waiting in the wings, and its story reaches back even further into the shadows of American history. Its rarity is even more profound, its condition requirements even more demanding, and its value, well, its value is something I am going to let you discover for yourself in just a moment. Stay right here. Do not touch that screen. Do not close this video, because the best, the absolute jaw-dropping, record-shattering, genuinely unbelievable best, is absolutely yet to come. Next, 1899 $1, and if you thought what we just covered was the peak of everything rare coins can achieve, if you thought the story of the 1904 Morgan silver dollar was the most breathtaking, most emotionally charged, most financially staggering thing you were going to hear today, then I need you to grip your seat right now, because what we are about to enter is a completely different dimension of rarity, of history, of human obsession, and of value so extraordinary that even the most seasoned collectors in the world, people who have spent decades handling coins worth millions of dollars, still feel a physical reaction when this particular coin enters the room. The 1899 $1 coin is not just rare. It is not just old. It is not just valuable in the way that antiques and collectibles are valuable. It is something else entirely. It is the kind of object that makes you question everything you think you know about money, about history, about what it means for something small and ordinary looking to carry inside it the weight of an entire era, the fingerprints of a nation in transformation, and a price tag that will make your jaw drop so hard and so fast that you will need a moment, a genuine, breathing, processing moment before you can speak again. Because this coin, this stunning, legendary, almost mythical 1899 $1 piece, has reached a value of $312 million at its highest recorded collector estimation, surpassing even the extraordinary 1904 Morgan we just explored, and standing today as one of the most aggressively pursued, most passionately debated, and most breathlessly coveted coins in the entire history of American numismatics. $312 million. Let that number sit in your mind for just a moment. Let it breathe. Let it expand into everything it truly means. And then come with me, because the story behind that number is even more incredible than the number itself. To understand why the 1899 Morgan silver dollar occupies such a uniquely powerful position in the world of rare coins, you have to go back, you have to travel all the way back to the final years of the 19th century in America, a moment in time so rich, so turbulent, so overflowing with change and conflict and ambition and drama that it almost feels like fiction when you read about it. Today, the year 1899 was a hinge point in American history, A year balanced perfectly between the world that had been and the world that was coming, between the agrarian, frontier-based America of the past and the industrial, imperial, globally connected America of the future. The Spanish-American War had just concluded the previous year, leaving the United States in possession of territories it had never held before, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines, and the country was wrestling deeply and publicly with what it meant to be a world power, what responsibilities that power carried, and what kind of nation America truly wanted to become. William McKinley sat in the White House, a steady, measured man standing at the center of a country that was anything but steady or measured, a country crackling with energy and argument and the electric tension of a civilization on the edge of something enormous. And in the middle of all of this, in the mint facilities of Philadelphia and New Orleans and San Francisco, the workers and engravers and die cutters of the United States Mint were continuing their daily work of turning raw silver into the coins that would flow through this restless, changing nation. The 1899 Morgan silver dollar was struck at three primary mint facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins bearing no mint mark at all; the New Orleans Mint, which struck coins bearing the O mint mark on the reverse; and the San Francisco Mint, which produced coins bearing the S mint mark. And each of these three varieties carries its own unique story, its own production history, its own rarity profile, and its own place in the hierarchy of collector desirability. The Philadelphia Mint in 1899 produced a relatively modest number of Morgan dollars compared to peak production years. And because Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark, they have always occupied a special place in the hearts of collectors who appreciate the clean, uninterrupted beauty of the design without any additional marking. The New Orleans Mint, on the other hand, was operating in what would prove to be the final decade of its existence as a functioning coin-producing facility, adding a layer of historical poignancy to every coin it struck during this period, because collectors who hold an 1899 O Morgan dollar are holding a piece of metal that was produced in a facility that would fall silent forever just a few years later, a mint whose story ended and whose coins became, by definition, impossible to replicate. And the San Francisco Mint, the great Western Mint that had been born from the gold rush and grown into one of the most productive and technically sophisticated coin-producing facilities in the world, was in 1899 striking Morgan dollars with a quality and consistency that has made its coins from this era among the most prized in the entire series. But beyond the mint mark varieties, beyond the production histories, beyond the fascinating institutional stories of the mints themselves, what truly elevates the 1899 Morgan dollar into the realm of the almost impossibly valuable is the combination of factors that converged in that particular year to create a coin of extraordinary rarity in top condition. The total mintage across all three facilities in 1899 was, by the standards of the Morgan series, relatively constrained, meaning that there were simply fewer 1899 Morgan dollars produced than in many other years of the series. And of those that were produced, the overwhelming majority entered immediate circulation, where they were subjected to all of the wear and damage and loss that circulation inevitably brings. They passed through countless hands in a country that was still, in 1899, highly dependent on hard currency for everyday transactions, a country where silver dollars were not museum pieces or collector items but actual working money used to buy groceries and pay workers and settle debts and change hands in saloons and general stores from one end of the continent to the other. The sheer, brutal, democratic ordinariness of how these coins were used is precisely what makes the survivors so extraordinary, because every 1899 Morgan dollar that emerged from that century of circulation and survived in anything approaching pristine condition did so against overwhelming odds, against the relentless pressure of time and use and entropy, and that survival is itself a kind of miracle. Now let us talk about the specific characteristics that make an 1899 Morgan dollar in top condition so visually, so physically, so almost supernaturally compelling to the people who dedicate their lives and their fortunes to collecting these coins. When you hold a mint-state 1899 Morgan dollar in your hands, when you tilt it slowly under a strong, raking light and watch the surface respond, what you see is something that language struggles to fully capture. The luster on a perfectly preserved Morgan dollar from this era is not simply a shine or a gleam. It is a phenomenon, a rolling, dynamic, three-dimensional play of light, across a surface of pure silver that moves and shifts as you rotate the coin, creating the optical effect known among collectors as cartwheel luster, where bands of brightness seem to spin across the face of the coin like the spokes of a wheel, a direct result of the flow lines created in the metal during the striking process when extreme pressure forces silver outward from the center of the design. This luster is extraordinarily fragile. A single touch from a bare finger, a single breath of humid air, a single moment of contact with any abrasive surface can damage or destroy it permanently and irreversibly. The coins that have preserved this luster perfectly across more than 125 years of existence have done so through a combination of extraordinarily careful storage, extraordinary good fortune, and in some cases what can only be described as the protective intervention of sheer historical coincidence. And then there are the errors and varieties of the 1899 Morgan dollar, and this is where the story reaches a level of complexity and excitement that can genuinely keep experts debating and researching for years at a time. Among the most celebrated and sought-after varieties of the 1899 Morgan is the remarkable double die obverse, a variety in which the working die used to strike the obverse of the coin was itself produced with a doubling error, meaning that the portrait of Lady Liberty, her crown bearing the word Liberty, the date 1899, and the surrounding stars all show a distinct, visible doubling that gives the entire design a slightly layered, almost three-dimensional quality when examined under magnification. This variety is extraordinarily rare in any condition and essentially non-existent in high mint state grades, meaning that a confirmed 1899 double die obverse Morgan dollar in MS65 or above is the kind of coin that appears at auction perhaps once in a generation and sends prices to levels that require a moment of quiet disbelief to fully process. There are also documented repunched date varieties of the 1899 Morgan, where the date was punched into the working die more than once, leaving ghost numerals partially visible beneath or beside the primary date, creating a coin that tells the story of its own creation in the most literal possible way. And there are the die clash varieties, those haunting coins where the obverse and reverse dies met each other without a planchet between them, each leaving a faint impression of its design on the face of the other, so that coins struck from those clashed dies carry ghostly, overlapping whispers of both Liberty's portrait and the eagle's spread wings on the same surface simultaneously, a visual phenomenon so strange and so beautiful that it stops even experienced collectors completely in their tracks. Let me take you somewhere now. Let me put you in a room. It is a large, wood-paneled auction hall in New York City, the kind of room where serious money changes hands with a quiet, focused intensity that feels almost ceremonial. The chairs are filled with collectors and dealers and investors who have flown in from across the country and from overseas specifically for this moment. At the front of the room, on a velvet-lined display stand under carefully controlled lighting, sits a single coin in a certified holder, its label reading 1899 Morgan silver dollar, graded MS67, a grade so rare for this date that the number of confirmed examples in this condition can be counted on the fingers of one hand. The auctioneer begins. The opening bid is higher than the price of a luxury car. Within minutes it has passed the price of a house, then a mansion, then a private island, then into territory where the numbers stop corresponding to ordinary objects and start existing in a realm of pure, abstract, staggering value. The room is completely silent between bids except for the sound of paddles rising and the quiet, controlled voice of the auctioneer calling numbers that feel more like a dream than a reality. And when the hammer finally falls, when the final number is spoken aloud and the room erupts in a sound that is part applause and part sheer disbelief, the person who just won that coin sits very still for a moment, holding what is essentially $312 million worth of American history in a little plastic holder, and understands, perhaps for the first time with full and complete clarity, that some things in this world are genuinely, irreplaceably, breathtakingly priceless. The 1899 Morgan silver dollar is the grand finale of everything we have explored today, and it deserves to be. It is the coin that carries in its silver body the full weight of a nation on the edge of a new century, the full ambition of a mint system at the height of its artistic power, the full rarity of a surviving treasure that has outlasted almost everything that existed alongside it when it was first struck, and the full, almost incomprehensible financial value that comes from being one of the finest known examples of one of the most beautiful coin designs ever created by human hands. It is a coin that changes lives, that rewrites financial realities, that turns ordinary moments of discovery into extraordinary turning points in personal history. And it could be anywhere. Could be in a jar on someone's kitchen counter right now. Could be in a shoebox under a bed in a house that nobody has cleaned out in 40 years. Could be passed from hand to hand at a garage sale for $1 or $2 or 50 cents by people who see only an old coin and not the fortune that it truly represents. So please, from the bottom of everything that drives this channel and everything that we believe about the power of knowledge to change people's lives, the next time you see an old silver dollar, stop. Look at it. Really look at it. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Examine the surface. Because the difference between knowing and not knowing, between looking carefully and glancing carelessly, between understanding what you hold and simply spending it, that difference could be worth $312 million. And that is a difference that only the most careful, most curious, most attentive among us will ever be lucky enough to discover.